Hi, everybody. So, I guess by now everyone knows that the prosecutor's office actually wrote a summary indictment on Suga. That means that they recommended to the judge that Suga be fined. Now, there's still two things that can happen. Either if there are parties involved, they can still decide to proceed with the trial. There are no parties involved. He did not harm anybody, he didn't damage any property. Now, the judge can either decide to accept the fine that the prosecutor's office is recommending or come up with a lower or higher fine, or they can also decide to proceed with the case. But considering there is no harm done on anybody, no property damaged, I don't see any reason why he would want to proceed with the trial. So we're very, very close to the conclusion of this case. Now, to perk us up a little bit, I think one of the main things that people realized during this fiasco is that this unnecessary fiasco is just how much BTS has how big they have become, to the point where when the Korean media, when people some people in Korean media were trying to make a big deal out of it, it didn't really affect their international support, the international fame, their international fan base. In fact, it became stronger. This is proof that they really have become bigger than K-pop. They have transcended K-pop. They actually have become bigger for their own country. Like the Korea can't contain them anymore. And I think from here forward, whatever they're going to be doing in for their career, if they do decide, is that they can actually go global. That's how big they have become. Um, and and that's one of the things I think that the people don't like because they don't need to contain themselves in Korea. And these are the 10 proofs.
Since BTS debuted in Billboard 200 to now, as they are releasing their solo works, there really hasn't been an era where they released at least one song that would rank in at least one or two major foreign charts. They are currently serving in the military and unable to promote their own work. It is often left to their team to give out interviews and then they release pre recorded live performances, but they are still charting. It is this consistency that actually made it look easy for everyone. Every agency and their dog thinks that their group can also do what BTS has done. No one has been able to come close to their awards, though, their sales and their quality. Every year, K pop groups submit entries to the Grammys, but no one has been nominated. No one has won any award at the AMAs. No one has gone inside Billboard Top 10 Hot 100. No one has gone inside UK Top 10, and no other group has sold out a full stadium tour. Groups have collaborated with Western artists. They often say that that is the key to Western dominance. But still, no. They have signed with the biggest labels, paid for playlisting and ads, and no one has come close to BTS, proving that it is, in fact, not easy. But the problem is that BTS just makes it look so easy, and so agency upon agency pays for TikTok influencers and playlists, hoping that that will give their artists the nudge they need for the global market to open up to them, not recognizing that K-pop is still a niche industry. It just so happened that BTS transcended K-pop, and here are 10 proofs. 10 years and rising. It is rare for a K-pop act to stay on top post the first 7 years. K-pop doesn't do well with aging. Yet BTS hasn't only managed to stay on top through the pandemic and after 7 years, and now while in the military, they actually continue to climb up as they do their solo ventures. Jin released The Astronaut, which he performed all but one time, and then he entered Billboard Hot 100. Suga did a world tour all on his own and sold out every single venue with enough demand left to fill a stadium in every stop. J-Hope headlined Lollapalooza, pulling more than 100,000 people in one performance. RM released an album that even the biggest music magazines think should be in the running for Record of the Year in Grammys. Jimin has been inside the Billboard Hot 100 for 7 weeks now. without even a decent playlist or paid ads. V released a single, Friends, also with no live performances and ads, and still entered Billboard Hot 100. Jungkook just became the fastest Korean act to reach 7 billion streams on Spotify, as per Spotify. And BTS remains the most streamed, most mentioned, and most in demand group, even during hiatus. Genre and theme deviation. The moment J Hope dropped Jack in the Box, a hip hop album from the pits of the very heart of hip hop, the world should have known each member was to explore worlds no one had dared to before. True enough, V dropped an R&B jazz album. Suga debuted a highly cerebral but positive hip hop album, and then RM went the other way and let out an angst-ridden poetry over melodies. Jimin wrote, composed, and produced two albums with a clear and concise narrative. It could very well be a movie. Jungkook set out to become a global pop artist to conquer different genres and languages. And in his maiden voyage, it actually helped him become the most streamed Korean solo act in Spotify. And the world is waiting what Jin will offer in his first album. But judging by how he managed to write the lyrics for The Astronaut overnight, we can probably expect some strong symbolisms and storytelling. This venture's genres and themes rarely touched, if at all, by K-pop acts. But this shouldn't have surprised us. BTS, after all, is the band that released tracks like Black Swan, where they mixed classical, theatrical, and pop as they talk about falling out of love with their art. This is miles away from the usual themes of love, sexual innuendos, breast beating, talking about how cool they are, or some other common themes. Rarely does artists actually talk about their own art, and now they're talking about how they are falling in love out of their own art. Who does that in this pop ridden world? Instead of succumbing to the popular, BTS actually rebelled against their own comfort and explored sounds and genres even Western mainstream artists are scared to get into. They are so outside of the global trend and so outside of the K-pop trend. They actually never followed a trend. They created trends. Whether by purpose or by necessity, BTS never followed trends. Instead, they chose to thread paths that are either available to them or they just created their own. For example, the creation of trilogies for every release with episodic narratives for each part and an overarching narrative that encompasses parts of their discography is one of those trends that they started. In each music video, clues are actually left behind for the fans to piece together to form an actual story, and that strengthens the engagement of fans with their art. This is now a very common practice in music video releases in K-pop. People are just picking out clues on what the music video is supposed to be telling them. Wings was also a deviation from the usual theme. While many other groups have explored the theme of seduction, they chose to position themselves on the other side. They are the seduced rather than the seducer in Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Many K-pop songs have put the performer as the receiver of an action after that instead of the instigator. And even in marketing, BTS was the first group to have such a strong and direct relationship with their fans, basically annihilating the fourth wall. They bypassed the media and they bypassed even their own agency. From their direct communication to their fans through Twitter and V Live came fan artist portals like Weavers and Bubble. Critical recognition. RM's RPWP being mentioned as the contender for Album of the Year in Grammys is in fact icing on the cake. What I personally value the most is the respect they are getting from already respected artists in the genre of their choosing. Artists that are considered groundbreakers of their own genre. Now, this is more common to the rap line because they are the ones that have been writing for so long, and they also have enough body of work, thick enough, to actually stand the test of time. to go around and be examined by other personalities or influential figures in different genre. But for example, Erika Baidu agreeing to take Arm's lyrics and sing it as is. Actually, that would tell you a great deal of the respect they have for RM himself. Someone like Baidu does not just compromise her art. You don't just tell her to just sing the words that you wrote. Yet she did for RM. J. Cole, an influential rapper that reignited poetry in the hip hop scene, personally approached J Hope, which actually led to their collaboration. It wasn't the other way around. Juice WRLD's group handpicked Suga for a posthumous collaboration, agreeing that Suga raps in Korean despite Juice WRLD's specific style that's actually very, very hard to translate in other languages. But even the vocal line themselves, who have actually been working on their own music in a considerably shorter time than the rap line, they are still able to get partnerships with Grammy Award winning producers. In actual practice, if you're not that influential in the industry, it'll take you at least 18 months to be put on the waiting list if you want to work with established producers and writers. Bypassing bureaucracy by going directly to fans. Even in BTS's first appearance in the Billboard Music Awards, their direct communication with fans was the talk of Western media. How are they being allowed to directly communicate with their fans? And why would you even do that? Little did the West know it would also be how BTS would beat the bureaucracy in the Western music industry. BTS fans, otherwise known as the armies, actually studied the algorithm and the ranking system of Western charts, and they played a game Western charts invented. And we know what happened next, and what will keep on happening. Rules changing a million times over. Rules changing last minute and constant adjustment to catch up with what ARMY is doing. No other fandom has done this, not a K-pop fandom and not a Western artist fandom. It isn't just fans obsessing over buying their albums, but fans actually analyzing the marketing and business models of Western companies. They're studying algorithms and other considerations and mathematical variables out there. These are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of brilliant brains coming together and mobilizing each other to accomplish a common goal while playing by the rules. This isn't a K pop fandom. This is a group of intelligent people bound by a common objective, and no other act in the world managed to bring all these people together but BTS. They have a strong fan base who sees BTS as artists. One of the most common stigma against idols is how they are objectified by their own fan base. They are seen as sex symbols or object of fantasy. As BTS expanded globally, they garnered a large fan base that brought with it sensibilities of the West, in that the primary focus is the music and not their desirability. This culture has kept BTS safe from scandals easily. Why? Because Western fans just don't care about those things. The current controversy that Korean media is forcing on Suga, and by extension BTS, is one example. While they force to play it off as a turning point on BTS's career for the worse, there's a whole segment in the US and Europe who can't be bothered to even check out the news. They stream and save for the concert, too busy for everything else. In the same breath, these are the same people who don't care about BTS's personal lives. They can date, not date, get married, whatever they want to do. This allows BTS to strengthen their identities as artists in the West, not matinee idols, certainly not objects of desire. This gives them a chance at an actual sustainable global career as artists. They aren't limited to Korea, certainly not limited in K pop. The world is their stage. Moving away from sales. Sales was K pop's strength And even BTS in their earlier years actually leaned on sales to help them rank in foreign charts. That is until foreign charts started changing the rules to alienate K pop groups. That is the reason even the best selling groups in physical sales are barely breaking into foreign charts. BTS, however, just continued evolving in how they are targeting new fans. While they continue to nurture their relationship with their current fan base, they started releasing songs that deviated greatly from what they have done in the past. This expanded their market and eventually evened out the consumption of their music. They gained new fans who consumed their music as they would any other artist. It increased their streaming statistics. Now they are starting to get into radio as well. On the other hand, the loyal fan base is still here. They continue to fill in the gaps, stabilizing the consistency regardless of the measures being used to gauge their success.
BTS does not need each other anymore. And that is very, very scary for a lot of people, for a lot of fans. They hate that. But the mere fact that even though they know they don't need each other, but they still choose to be together is actually what makes them lethal. And their relationship even stronger. But the mere fact, everyone knows that each of the members is actually successful. They're developing their own niche, their own market, their own following, their own fans. So that proves that even if there's absolutely nothing you can do with a group that can destroy BTS. They will always thrive as a group, and they will always be good on their own. The one thing that we realized after this artificial fiasco that the Korean media tried to create around BTS is that they actually don't need Korean media. They have the work that they have done, the work that they have created, that's enough for the international critics and international fans to actually recognize them as artists, that we are able to set aside their personal troubles, if there is any, or their personal life. And as an artist, that's really what you want. You don't want your personal life to be mixed with your work. And that's what they have achieved, because there are a lot of artists that we admire and we don't know anything about their personal lives. We just know that they're great at what they do, and they have achieved that because fans don't care. They didn't care about this drunk driving, or whatever. They didn't care about all this scandals they tried to create. BTS was in fact able to prove that they don't need Korean media. And I think that's the most powerful thing, when you can withstand cancellation and actually thrive after. What else can they do to you? If they can't break you with that, what else can they do to you? So those are my thoughts. Let me know what yours are. Would love to hear your thoughts, and if you have any questions, clarifications, let me know. You can say whatever it is that you want to say, for as long as you do it respectfully. Please follow me on Patreon. I do have a free membership, and it's a fun group. It's one of the few groups that you will find where you can actually say unpopular opinions and not be harassed for it, for as long as you say it respectfully. So join us. We do, as I've said, we have a free tier. So if you just want to try things out, just come on Patreon. And then also follow me on Twitter or on X, and also on Instagram, because I'll start updating content. I will start uploading content there as well. All right. Thank you so much. Please give this a like, subscribe, and hit that notification button, and share the video. Also, as I've said, follow me on all the social media links that you see on your screen right now. Thank you.